Folks, lots of people out there reading into the results in the Texas primary, all sorts of things, not all of which are true. And I want to unpack it here today. Greetings and welcome to the What's Right Show. Behind the What's Right microphone, it's me, your host, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian, Sam Mirejovsky. Sam at what'srightshow.com is my email. Now, I don't know, you can put it any way you want, but Cornyn lost. I mean, that's the takeaway here. I mean, so much money behind him, and I'm already seeing folks out there blame the Iranian conflict, the war that is being prosecuted by Donald Trump as a reason for this. I think this isn't exactly right. I believe that for Republicans, for conservative voters, today, right now, the most important issue when it comes to Congress, be it the Senate or the House of Representatives, is the SAVE Act. It's ultimately the domestic agenda, which, frankly, has stalled in Washington. And that's that. Look, the vote against Cornyn, the people that voted for Paxton or Hunt, ultimately are dissatisfied with the Republican Thune-led Senate. And it's not just about the SAVE Act. It's the fact that, I mean, look, the Senate is taking another break, another vacation, and they've got a few members, hanging behind to keep pro forma sessions going, just so Trump can't make any recess appointments. The American people voted overwhelmingly for Donald J. Trump in 2024. Trump ran on the agenda that we're seeing unfold right now, and yet Senate Republicans, not Democrats, Senate Republicans are doing their darndest to stall it. That's the way to view this, right? I mean, so, to me, this is not an indictment of Trump in any way. It's the McConnell-Thune axis. Cornyn's a part of this too. Tom Tillis, who is on his way out. I mean, these people hate Trump, and by extension, they hate you and me. The sheer arrogance of it all. Now, I'll tell you, you're probably thinking over there, right? Well, Sam, how can these people be so ignorant? How can they be so dumb? I mean, the people presumably have some form of political instinct, right? I mean, they've been in the Senate. Cornyn's been in office for how many years? Oodles of time. So and this would have been, he's 70 years old, so this would have been the last term. And let me answer this really quickly. The short version of this is that if you spend any amount of time with these sort of august Senate Republican types, they believe that the institution of the Senate as a bulwark against, and we'll just say it, a radical agenda of a president, any president, it comes and goes, that it is their duty to put the brakes on a guy like Trump. And this is how they talk. This is how they justify it. The problem is, and it's coming out now, the internet is forever, right? I always say this. So coming out with Tom Tillis, Republican senator made waves 2 days ago where he was grilling Kristi Noem, DHS secretary, grilling her. But then, okay, fine. There are things that Kristi Noem has done that I'm not a fan of. I'm not. That's not here. It's not for this moment here to unpack. But there are things that I have my reservations. I'll put it this way, and I did from the beginning, if you will recall, when her name was put forward for nomination. But as far as what is happening at the Department of Homeland Security today versus, let's say, under Biden or under Obama, we're talking night and day difference. And so these clips resurfaced of Tom Tillis, Senator Tillis, a Republican, treating Alejandro Mayorkas, the guy who let in a minimum, because the official number is 25 million illegal immigrants into the country, among the murderers, gang members, violent thugs, rapists, child molesters, and the like, absolutely going soft on Mayorkas. And the reason is because Mayorkas and Biden and the people in that cabal were all Washington, D.C. insiders. The reason that Senate Democrats, Republicans, the reason that Senate Republicans are so, the reason that the Senate Republicans give for why they put the brakes on Trump, that they have this duty to the institute, is complete nonsense. It's not true. It's a head fake. And they don't believe it themselves. They just loathe Trump. They loathe MAGA. They want to bring back their old, days of the Republican Party. The Republican Party, by the way, that was rejected, not just by conservatives, but by America as a whole. And that's what this is what we're doing here, right? So look at the results, right? We got, almost 90% of the vote in now. Cornyn is at 42%. Ken Paxton, about 41%. Ken Paxton in Texas, I'm talking about the Texas senatorial primary. Cornyn's, again, an incumbent, a longtime incumbent. And a result like this is devastating. I call it a loss, even though he narrowly leads based on the data in front of me now. Wesley Hunt at 13.2%. Listen, I'll explain to you what this was. Hunt was never a serious candidate. You do realize this. Wesley Hunt is a Republican congressman in Texas. And the McConnell Thune faction of the Republican Party, recruited him to run in that race as a spoiler, to split the anti-establishment, the anti-incumbent vote. That's all it was. It was an absolute disastrous finish here. Now, the money, I want to talk about the money. The pro-Cornyn side spent $71 million. The pro-Paxton side spent $4.4 million. This is, we call it a David versus Goliath race. This is really what it was. He was outspent. Paxton was outspent 33-1. Now, I'm not going to name names, but, I keep company with a handful of Republican congressmen, and I'll tell you, even some from Texas, who are not big fans of Ken Paxton. And so what I am telling you here is, I'm just saying, this isn't fantasy coming off the top of my head when I tell you that Hunt was recruited. I mean, he was, okay? It's what happened. And they put, and look at this, pro-Hunt, $12.2 million. 12. That is roughly 3x more than what Paxton spent. Now, that's the pro spending. There's a bunch of anti-spending, obviously. But look, it's a very poor showing for Hunt. It's a very poor showing for the incumbent, Cornyn. It's great news for Paxton, who's seen as a maverick. Now, he's got some scandal, right? His wife left him. There's an affair that was reported. Again, these are allegations. I don't know that he ever, admitted to it or addressed it publicly. But I'll tell you this, from everything that Paxton does, he's a far more right-wing guy than Cornyn ever will be. And Cornyn is an odious toad of a Republican that represents a red state. And it's embarrassing that Texas has continued over and over to send him to the Senate. Well, it is. Now, I'll tell you the other race here of course, there's a lot of stuff here in the Texas primary last night to focus on. But, obviously you heard about Dan Crenshaw, the one-eyed anti-MAGA Republican, a hugely defeated, straight up defeated Steve Toth, won 57.3% of the vote there. So no runoff in the Texas District 2 primary. again, people calling this a referendum, kind of the neocon wing of the party versus the MAGA wing. But there's other component to this. People really hate the self-serving nature of a guy, of people, all congressmen and senators like Crenshaw. You know, I was tooling around last night as this was all unfolding and the news of this was coming out, tooling around on X, and there was story after story of people, you know, from credible accounts who had these really bad experiences with Crenshaw. He had some, you know, he had some clothing line that he was hawking, and he always prioritized that over his, you know, his job representing his district in the state of Texas. The people were bringing that up, but look, I mean, it's no, well, let's talk about it, right? And we're gonna, I'll give you the updates, of course, on what's going on in Iran, but I don't want to get lost. I don't want to get lost on the war topic today, because I'm telling you, in the House of Representatives, at least they passed the SAVE Act. Voter ID got through the House of Representatives. Where is it stalled? It's stalled in the Senate. And well, I'll give you, okay. Well, so people are saying, and I see this, I know, a number of prominent conservatives, some of my friends even are saying that this election yesterday was a referendum on Iran. That a guy like Crenshaw is a bit of a warmonger. That, you know, he is. And Cornyn's going to be more of a neocon guy too. So they're reading into this a slap down by the base of the Republican Party on Trump and on this foray into Iran. That's no, I'm not saying I don't think that's true, but I'm just saying that's what's being said out there. What I think is in reality the case is American people, and polling bears it out, right? The approve, disapprove on the war, and the condition here, but this is an interesting CBS poll, if the conflict lasts, I mean, if it doesn't wrap up by the middle of next week, if the conflict lasts, what will the approve, disapprove on it be? It was plus 52 approve. So that's days, weeks, by the way. Months, it's slightly underwater. Obviously, years, nobody wants a years-long war. I'm surprised at actually overall how positive this is. But what is 80-20? This is 50-50, plus or minus, on weeks and months. What is the 80-20 issue out there? Where literally 71% of Democrats want voter ID. It's the SAVE Act. And you have these senators, Thune leading the Senate, of course, McConnell barely hanging on after multiple strokes, Tillis on his way out the door, who have decided they're going to sabotage Trump's agenda, even though it flies in the face of what the country wants. They are spitting on me and you in front of our faces. And then when these guys lose, like Cornyn lost, then they want to spin it and say that the reason is Trump. It's such total, complete nonsense. Well, and on the Democrat side, we got to mention this too. On the Democrat side, James Tallarico beat out Jasmine Crockett in a surprise to literally nobody. Now, Tallarico's an interesting guy. He's definitely a lib, but he is a new generation of Democrat who is smart enough to understand that the actual position of the Democratic Party to throw open the gates to the country is a non-starter. I mean, he's looking at the numbers on the SAVE Act. He's understanding where the mood of the country is. I mean, they are. This is you know. So I saw Tallarico. There's a clip of him where he is saying that we should put a welcome mat on our southern border. Now that clip has been taken and sort of put out of context, but he also goes on to say there should be a lock on the door. And I'm telling you, this is going to be very persuasive. I don't know if it will sell in Texas, but it'll be very persuasive. And that race, if Cornyn, let's say Cornyn loses in the runoff and Paxton sees this through, I suspect, as Paxton and Tallarico face off against each other, I mean, there isn't a negligible chance that the Democrat can win. And here we are. It comes back to we cannot let anybody cheat. It has to be a free, and fair fight. And so it's, all roads lead back to the SAVE Act. And the Republicans in the Senate, I'm telling you, the Tillis wing of the Senate, John Thune, Mitch McConnell, John Cornyn would rather lose the majority and save their own skins in a way if they were to thwart Trump's efforts to clean up elections and to secure stronger MAGA victories. I'm telling you, this is your own party is working against you. This much we know. Now, here's some humorous ads. Jasmine, we'll do that. Tallarico's ad, I don't know who suggested this. Probably not the best idea if you listen to how it ends. This is a kind of a unifying ad. The point of it is that, we're all being agitated against each other. And then, of course, he proceeds to end it by agitating against rich people. He calls it, well, I'll let you listen to how this thing ends.
They want us looking left and right at our neighbors instead of looking up at them. The biggest divide in our politics is not left versus right. It's top versus bottom.
Top versus bottom. I will leave that right there and not say another word. Now, Crockett's, this ad, sometimes, I know a thing or two about marketing, folks. I do. This ad is the worst. And people like on the Democratic side loved it. It's those of you listening on audio, no problem. I'm playing this on the Sam Cam. I'll frame this. It's literally 30 seconds of Trump calling Jasmine Crockett low IQ, and she is staring into the camera, trying her best to look confident and powerful. You think this works?
How about this new one they have, their new star, Crockett? How about her?
She's the new star of the Democrat Party, Jasmine Crockett. They're in big trouble.
But you have this woman, Crockett. She's a very low IQ person.
I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person. Crockett. Oh, man. Oh, man.
She's a very low IQ person.
Somebody said the other day she's one of the leaders of the party. I said, you got to be kidding.
Now they're going to rely on Crockett. Crockett's going to bring them back.
I don't care. I understand that in a Democratic primary, very few voters are going to be pro-Trump. I get that. But that's not the point. You don't want to go and amplify your mortal enemy's intelligent assessment of you. You never want to do this. It's such a bad move. So Crockett is out of the race. Did not expect that to go anywhere. All right, folks, we've got to take a quick break here. Be right back. The What's Right Show, brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam and Ash because you deserve what's right.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Rarely wrong, always right. Sam Mirejovsky here with a quick word about Sam and Ash injury law. So you get into an accident, you get injured, you get hurt, and then you've got this voice inside of you that says, "Hey, you got to call the insurance company. You got to file a claim. You've got to handle this. You got to get the ball moving forward." And you do this because you're a competent person. The problem is that your instinct is wrong. I've done this a long time, folks, and nothing good comes of talking to the insurance company, in particular to the other side. The way that they look at these claims is plain and simple: how can we save money? They will waste your time. You will spin your wheels. You'll send them all the paperwork in the world. And at the end of the day, weeks and months go by and you are thousands of dollars in the hole. Don't be that guy. All right. 800-304-2000. 800-304-2000. samandashlaw.com, because you deserve what's right. All right. Quick summation here. By the way, Sam at what'srightshow.com. Welcome to the podcast. Those of you who are listening on the radio, the great news is you can get this show in your pocket, wherever you are, or on your desktop, on your computer. Look up What's Right Show. That's how you find it. What's Right Show, anywhere you get your podcast. And email me. You've got my email. If there are any technical problems, we respond. I put producer Robbie on it. We try to figure out what's going on. But I get these panic emails. Sam, I can't find the show. It's not working. All right. Reboot the app, restart, and it'll be there. It works. Good. Excellent. I'm here for it, folks. Tech support, happy to do it. Now, I want to go back to the poll I mentioned earlier. This is a CBS poll, okay? Because this is important for understanding what's going on in these Republican primaries. And it's important in understanding where we're headed in 2028. My theory, my thesis here is it's all about the domestic agenda for Congress. Trump is putting America back on the map as a world superpower. People want that. I don't care what Megyn Kelly says. I don't care what Tucker Carlson says. Americans love this. This is selling. What people don't like is the Senate sitting on its hands when it comes to helping Trump and then actively doing things that oppose the president's agenda. They don't like that. So here's the poll, okay? Because even, Crenshaw's loss, people are saying, well, he's a warmonger. He's a neocon. It's a slap in the face for Trump. This is bad news. Boomers are aging out. Number of people saying that. Oh, this is bad news for Republicans. So here is the poll. And I'm doing the math in my head. It's actually better than I described earlier. The poll asked, do you approve or disapprove of military action in Iran if you think the conflict would last? And then there were three options: days or weeks, months, years. Now, I mentioned earlier, years was there's a terrible result for that. Days and weeks, by the way, days and weeks is almost an 80-20 issue. An 80-20 issue. 76, what is it? 76 to 24. Months is underwater by 8 points. And then years is underwater by 74 points, 13 to 87. So what does this mean? What does this mean in plain English? Now, you could be reductive and say, well, people don't want to get bogged down in a protracted war. They don't want a ground war and whatnot. But, the way to read this is they don't want another Iraq. They don't want another Afghanistan. And I don't either, and neither do you, right? We understand this fundamentally. But, what they want in this action here is a decapitation strike. They don't want us to be isolationists. They understand. People get it, okay? And by the way, thank you all for your kind words of support yesterday when we did the program. I came out swinging pretty hard against some of these so-called MAGA influencers, pillars in the community who have come out trashing President Trump over this. I mentioned yesterday on the program, I still remain firmly behind the president. And I will let you know if that changes. Don't foresee that happening, but I will. But Megyn Kelly's monologue in her program was atrocious. Matt Walsh's takes on this were terrible, and Tucker Carlson, we're not going to get into that. And I understand these people see themselves as the answer to the Bush-era republicanism, although my theory on it is it's all for clicks, and they really, frankly, think that their audience is too stupid to understand any nuanced positions. But this is not this election yesterday, not a voice against neocons. And I'll give you this example. Is what is it like when you think about this? There's people don't want nation building, right? What was neocon? Let's forget Iran because we're in process. And when we're in process of something, I can't tell you how it's going to work out, and Trump won't tell us either. And we shouldn't signal to our enemies. We shouldn't let Iran know that, our stomach is not in it for a long fight. I don't think they've got a long fight in them based on the way things are going. But regardless, if you look at Venezuela, what happened? Very simply put, there were no boots on the ground. There was a quick and decisive action where Maduro was taken out, literally taken out, removed, kidnapped from his compound on a military base, whisked away to New York. He's gone. And then Trump and the word is agnostic, meaning he doesn't favor, who really there politically is in power, what ideology they have, what their track record is. His one thing that he cares about is, are they going to do business with the United States of America? Are they going to play ball with us? Now, that isn't neoconism. That's America first, if I've ever seen it, because it's all about what is good for us. It's not projecting our values and our hopes, our dreams, our aspirations, and whatever other bullshit these people learn at their Ivy League institutions. We're going to go into Afghanistan and we're going to make things wonderful and beautiful. We're going to turn it into a democracy. These people are, I'm sorry, it was doomed to fail from the beginning. And again, Americans are smart enough to know that, and they're smart enough to see the difference. I saw Trump speaking about who he'd like to see in Iran leading things. And as they brought up the Shah, the son of the Shah, the heir apparent to the Iranian throne. Reza Pahlavi is his name. And they asked him, Mr. President, do you think that Pahlavi could rule the country? And he's like, yeah. Trump's answer, yeah, he could. I mean, there's other people too. We'll deal with anybody who's reasonable. There might be other people in the country today who are more capable than him. He was completely, and he has been, non-committal about who it is in leadership. The only thing that Trump wants, and the objective of our military right now, is to take out the hostile nest of vipers that, any student of history recognizes as a menace in the region, a destabilizing force in the region. And that leads to a very important point, because notice what Trump is doing. He actually, if you voted for Trump to disentangle us from the world, then I have to tell you something very important. He has been doing this, but the agitators out there, even people, unfortunately, on our side, I can't blame it on MSN now, but people on our side, the agitators are wrong about this because they don't see the strategy for what it is. First, Trump went to Europe and he said, you guys need to spend more money for your own defense. People lost their minds, especially the libs, because, Trump came out, and turned his back on his allies. But really what he forced Europe to do, what he forced NATO countries to do, is to spend money on their own militaries, right? And what was the net result of this? They did. Enormous, to the point where a center-left guy from Holland, Mark Rutte, who is now the NATO Secretary General, gives Trump credit for this every place he goes, sings Trump's praises. What is the net result of this? Americans aren't the only ones stepping up. We, the American taxpayers, are not the only ones stepping up to protect Europe. Now look at the Middle East. You know how we disentangle from the Middle East without it coming and blowing up literally on our shores? We create a system in the Middle East, an environment where the Middle East can police itself. And Trump has already done that. Look at the Abraham Accords. Look at these historic agreements of mutual cooperation and respect. Diplomatic ties between countries that had been previously at war functionally with each other. And Trump brought that about. And all of these countries now agree that there is a menace in the region named Iran. It is a belligerent, destabilizing force. The pathway of getting out of the Middle East is to create a stable environment where the Middle East can police itself. And again, we're agnostic about people. We're not hung up, foreign policy of the United States, we're not hung up about what kind of a despot, non-democratic country the Saudis are. Mohammed bin Salman chopping up, a reporter. You talk to the left, by the way, about this, and there are a number of people in our government, and also some Republicans, and this would be very neoconservative, right, to say, we are not going to deal with we're not going to deal with these people because they don't adhere to our quote-unquote values. And then we insist on projecting our values on other countries when the only thing that matters is peace and security in the world that benefits the U.S., that opens up trade and mutual benefit for us, the American people. That's the end game. And what you are seeing, is I'll be the first to tell you, if I start to smell nation building, if I start to smell that Trump is going in and wanting to build an American-style government or a Western-style government, a liberal democracy in Iran, then I'll eat my words. But it's not happening. And that is why I understand that we will see elections here in the upcoming primaries. We're going to see elections where Republican neoconservatives get booted. And the knee-jerk response will be, it's because it's a rejection of what Trump is doing. That Trump is doing something completely different. It is a new style of foreign policy, the likes of which we have not seen. I have not seen really in my lifetime. And let me tell you something else, if you're still skeptical about this. And this is an important point, and goes back to Afghanistan. There are a lot of people who were on the inside of the Afghanistan boondoggle who said that the operation actually went pretty well, except, we let bin Laden get away to Pakistan. And I don't, there's different things have been said and written about this over the years. If there really was a clear opportunity to get bin Laden, producer Robbie, perhaps you have an opinion about this. But I'm just telling you, if 9/11 had happened on Trump's watch, if this administration, if Trump, Hegseth, Marco Rubio, if we had a 9/11 moment, I don't know. I mean, the whole country of Afghanistan would probably be gone. But bin Laden would be a dead man walking. I mean, it's just, and that's what it would be. There would be no elections that we were organizing. There'd be no women's schools that we were building in Afghanistan. We would just go and eliminate the enemy and anyone that gave them quarter. That's not neocons. And so it's almost as if, we had a great military in 2001 and 2002. We had a great military. But just because Bush was, a Republican, look, he was a soft guy. And the people around him were nation building sort of, Wilsonian. You go back to World War I, you go back to, the beginning of the end, right? The first liberal Democrat in the U.S., Woodrow Wilson, an absolute and total loser, okay? But it was, the people inside the Bush administration had that same perspective. And consequently, this explains why they despise Trump so much. And this is, my favorite thing about what we're seeing now with our foreign policy is that is the ultimate slap in the face, screw you, thank you so much to George W. Bush and the Cheney Bush wing of the Republican Party that is agitated against Trump, agitated against you and I, continues through their network of nearly dead politicians like Mitch McConnell in the Senate to fight the MAGA agenda. These people are finally going to see the end of their days. Politically speaking, perhaps more of an internal way as well. So this is it. Now, my concern is having enough runway to get it done. It's almost like in business. You have a startup, you have a certain amount of cash that you have, and you're certain your proof of concept has been tested, and then you do it, and you got to make sure you don't run out of money. And it's like that in politics too. You've got this idea, and Trump has this idea, and by the way, with tariffs, flew in the face of all conventional thinking, right and left. But it's working. It needs time to work further. And we're in a race against the clock by virtue of how our political system is built. The Chinese, and I'm not advocating, I love our country and I love our Constitution. I'm just saying, these dictatorships have the advantage here where they can execute on a 10-year plan and see it through. The problem is that those countries then get hijacked by crazy people, right? And by people with terrible ideas like President Xi in China, who's bankrupting his country. So, I'm not advocating for that system, but I'm just saying we live in a 2-year cycle time frame. And America has to simply get things done. The president has to get things done. So this is a fact. Now, look, they've got a new Ayatollah in Iran. The bombing raids have intensified. There's some interesting developments there. And the Ayatollah, it's the Ayatollah's son that is the new guy in charge. And there already are reports that he's been eliminated. I don't think that's true as of right now, but yeah. So this is, the military, the Iranian Navy is absolutely decimated. And if you go on social media, let me give you this caution here with everything that's going on. It's also fast moving, and there are accounts out there that are, they might seem like they're friendly people, but they are out there just absolutely dropping things that are fundamentally not true, are not verified, are panicking level, misinformation. And so you kind of got to take a beat. And if sometimes I sound like I'm a few hours behind the news cycle, it's because I'm just they reported like 2 or 3 different guys getting appointed to the supreme leader position, this Ayatollah position. So it's very difficult to figure out what is going on. But rest assured, I don't see any signs of Trump and this administration letting up, and I think that is absolutely the correct way to go. So, again, this thing is popular. If it's days or weeks, it's almost an 80-20 issue. That is a huge takeaway from today's program. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Friends, have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. Sam@whatsrightshow.com is my email. Find the What's Right Show on podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. You can get the show right away in the morning. All right. Have a great day.